Welcome back to the Roadmap to Retirement podcast.
This is Roadmap to Retirement. Tune in for financial tips, investment strategies, and smart money moves to supercharge your retirement savings. Alex Neri, CFP, and guests are here to help you build your roadmap to retirement.
I had a conversation with an advisor recently. We were talking about client events, and I just posed a question like, we do client events, like we do like the Red Wings game in the summer, and I do a few different casual things throughout the year. And he said no, and one of his reasons that he doesn't do client events is because he's got tattoos and he's like self-conscious about it. He's like, I don't want my clients to see there's professional me and then there's casual me, and I don't want my like he's a typical financial advisor who's wearing a suit and tie every day. So if he's got a sleeve like yourself, his clients don't know about it. So he's like very self-conscious about that. And to me, in the modern world, I'm very confident that like none of his clients will give a shit. Like they want to know who you are. And if you're a guy with tattoos and you got a story for the tattoo, I think people find that interesting. If you're
I think it's a talking point for sure. I think often this is an awesome conversation actually, because I think authenticity is what the world is so actively seeking nowadays, in not only your world but my world as well. I think just in general, I feel like we should be moving more towards that, where this playing dress up. You and I were talking before the podcast of kind of my journey in financial planning. Like for 12 years of my life, I was putting on a suit and felt like a clown. Right now, I like dressing up, and there's people going to, dude, I have a lot of nice stuff and I enjoy it, and no stretch of the imagination is it something that I wanted to do every single day. And that's okay, because I still put on, like we were just talking, I still put on sport coats and I still like making myself look good and being presentable, but that's my personal preference. It's not like somebody told me I had to.
Easier doing no one's telling you to have. Yeah, I dress pretty casual for a financial advisor, right?
Yeah.
But today I had a Zoom meeting. I'm doing a podcast with you. I've got a lunch meeting with somebody that's not a client, they're a center of influence.
Yeah.
And then I have more Zoom meetings. Like I'm not in a situation where, if I had the old school approach, if I had clients coming in all day, meeting with me in the conference room, I'd probably dress nicer than I am right now. But I also don't think that they care. I think they're normal people and they want to see me be a normal person. Hopefully they're working with me because I'm good at what I do, not because I'm wearing a expensive suit.
Yeah, and everybody's examples that they give me about my client prefers me in this and whatever industry that they're in, it's always this really small sample size, right? And so, I can pull out a bunch of business owners that I know that just how they want to and do the same type of revenue that your business does.
Right. It's also like we assume that our clients want something.
Yes.
Right? Like, oh, my clients want me to dress like this, or my clients really want my newsletter, or whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever asked your clients? Like, if you survey your clients, you might find pretty quickly they don't really care what you dress within reason. They probably don't read every word of your newsletter that you spend all that time on. Like, there's things you can cut out as a financial advisor or any professional and probably get the same results and maybe spend less time on things that don't matter and have more time to spend on things that your clients do care about, which might just be spending time with them, or it might be conversations.
Yeah, and going back to even just the simple thing of a tattoo, like I spent years of my life like not getting a sleeve that I had planned out for a long time because of that exact reason. Because I was like, I like rolling up my sleeves in my dress shirts. What are people going to think? At the end of the day, it's just me. Being authentic, I think, is so much more valuable because we've got one chance at life, right? I know that's going down a way deeper rabbit hole, but I always relate that back to that. Like, you got one shot at this thing, just be yourself. If people buy it, cool. If they don't, you might just need to change your demographic that you're working with or your attributes of people, or maybe you're not selling something as in yourself that people want to buy, but you're never going to know that until you actually try it. And when you become your true authentic self, I find it really hard to fail. I really do. I think that people can tell immediately when you're trying to sell them something. I think people can tell immediately when you're putting on a face, right? And I think in today's day and age, in 2025, our generation at least is sick of that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny people are self-conscious about having tattoos. I feel self-conscious. I don't have any tattoos. I don't want my clients to know that I don't have tattoos. What do they think of me? That's not good. Go the wrong way.
I was actually thinking about getting a neck tattoo, not like what you're thinking, like over here, and I got voted down by everybody in my life.
I'd probably vote that down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I think I've rethought it too. I was like, maybe not. Maybe that's just like a late night.
Yeah,
maybe I should.
I think there's tattoo guys, and then there's neck tattoo guys. They're a different category.
Yeah, for sure.
Huh, good. What do you want to talk about? What's new with you?
Man, lots of stuff is new. Really getting more into the facilitation space. So that's been cool. The workshop space, generally speaking, I've done more individual. Historically, I've done a lot more individual one-on-one coaching, but this year specifically, I did a bunch last year too, but it's becoming now like a main thing I'm going to be offering. I really enjoy it. And clients are getting a lot of good feedback from it, especially teams. So that's something I'm diving into. I'm really excited. I got a couple events already scheduled for this spring that I'm flying down to, which feels good. It's a cool aspect of the business, and I'm really enjoying it.
Cool. Sounds like a lot of unique opportunities. It's how do you separate? So there's a lot of coaches out there, right? There's a lot of people
Lots.
in your business. I'm on LinkedIn and like I get messages literally a daily basis from somebody that wants to coach me. It's my initial reaction is like, why does this person think that they're the right person to help me with whatever they think I'm dealing with, which they usually don't even take the time to figure out what I'm dealing with. They go right into the sales pitch of it.
Yeah.
It's called a pitch slap.
Yeah.
I'm targeting pitch slap. So so people on the other side of it, if you're a financial advisor or whatever you do, if you're open to some kind of business coaching, what do you think should be the kind of criteria that you're looking for in a coach, other than personality fit? That's the obvious. Find somebody you like.
I was going to say that, so I'm glad you already brought it out. I think I would highly encourage people. I find the coaching industry, people stick more to people. A lot of people call themselves coaches that are really consultants.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm coming into your business and I'm giving you specific advice because the last 15 years of my career, I've built this X business, and this is why you should hire me for a coach. Most likely you're acting more like a consultant than you are a coach, truthfully. This is just a personal preference. I think that in industry, coaches are really valuable for a specific reason, but I honestly highly encourage people to broaden their horizon, at least for the initial interviews. It's like a financial advisor, in my opinion. If you get referred to somebody, there's a basis of trust there that you have to consider. And I think that's important. So if you're getting referred to or being reached out to a coach, do I know anybody that knows this person? Right? I think that is actually important. But beyond that, you get too much into a bubble, right? If you don't talk to other business owners, I've learned more about business being a coach than I did ever before, like from working with clients too, right? It's pretty cool. But I think that we get inside too much of a bubble where it's, I'm going to hire this person because they only work with my firm, or they only work with this industry, or and it's like, I would be hesitant about that.
Yeah, so there's two schools of thought there, right? There's you want to work with someone that's done what you're doing before, because if they haven't done what you're doing, then how would they know how to do it? And then there's the other school of thought, which is what you're saying is, if you're just staying in your lane and you're thinking the way you've always thought, and you're talking to other people that think the way you think, you're not really expanding and growing. Like the outside perspective from someone that's never been a financial advisor might be more valuable than hearing the same thing I've heard my entire career from people that think the way I do. Yeah.
And what the first thing you just mentioned, though, of if they haven't done what I've done, then how can they tell me how to, that's not coaching.
Right.
That's consulting or mentorship, depending on your model. So that description right there isn't actually a coach. That's a consultant. Right. You're hiring somebody.
Can Andy rethrow a ball?
Exactly. I talked this about in an Instagram video, right? Yeah, like that. If you're looking for someone to revamp your business and give you advice, you're not actually looking for a coach the way that it's defined. You're looking for a consultant or a mentor.
Which is fine.
Which is great too. And if you're looking for a consultant or mentor, I would 100% consider that, okay, this person's done it, right? If you're not, and you're looking for more of a coach, then I don't think where their background is necessarily matters that much, to be quite frank with you. It's more of how they show up. Can they ask the right questions? Are they an active listener? Can they get you to your next level, right? And that is, you don't need necessarily experience in that world if you're doing coaching the right way, because coaching really should be following your lead. What do you want to do with your business? Okay, what's getting in your way?
It's almost therapy.
Yeah, therapy focuses vastly more on the past, right? But yeah, so I agree with you in a sense, and I think that a coach definitely draws that line, and a lot of coaches teeter on that line between consultant and coach. Especially, I do all the time, right? Especially with my background. When I'm working with a financial advisor, I'm very much more consider myself a consultant than I do a coach. I'm very much that 50-50 line, if not like 60-40. Right?
Is that the way you want it, or do you feel like you gravitate that way because of your experiences?
I think that people hire me for that reason. I don't think, I know. People hire me for that reason. They're looking for both. They're looking for that, hey, how do we get myself to that next level? And also, I'm going to ask you some questions and I want you to answer them. Based on your experience, based on other people's experience that I've coached and consulted. I think it's more of, I know that's what they expressed to me.
Sure. Who should not hire a coach?
someone that's not ready. And that's a really weird statement to make. But if you're not ready to put in the work, if you're not at that point that you're ready to put in the work, don't hire a coach. It's just a waste of money.
The thing I see a lot of times with people, especially early in their career, is they're getting the advice and the mentorship from somebody like within their firm, but it's like incomplete. And we could talk about this for hours, but there's conflicts there. And that's not the direction I want to go.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, they could really use the outside guidance from somebody like yourself that's done it and also brings a different perspective. But typically that person can't afford to hire a coach. And they're in this weird limbo spot that they want to grow, they recognize the flaws, but they either can't take action or they've convinced themselves that they can't take action.
Yeah, that's challenging. I think first off, I think firms need to do a better job at encouraging mentorship and true leadership, not just like sales management. I think most of the people are glorified sales managers and not real leaders and coaches. I think that's the first issue that people run into, because that should be something.
Right.
Yeah. And the next thing I would say is there's this entire aspect of coaching, and where coaching, I think, is what people generally think of, especially if they're paying attention to social media, is like the social media type of coaches, where it's like, hey, I'm going to follow my course or whatever, and we'll get you to this space. That may be true, but that's also, I don't love that model, and I personally don't think I'll ever do that model at the scale that I see it. But I do think that it's a valuable piece of the puzzle. Like I bought a social media and content creation course. It was like $70 or something like that. Right. I think that was really valuable. It's a series of like 10 videos. You watch them, you do the work by yourself. I think that's the place that I'll probably start for the areas of expertise that I do have in the coaching world and consulting world, of building low entry price points of programs and courses. And that's probably what I would tell a lot of younger advisors or younger business owners to look into if you're on that stretch. Because quite frankly, I'm not going to say it's something arrogant like you get what you pay for with a coach, because I think that it's totally based on their model, who they're generally working with. And I've actually been in this coaching course to get another designation for the last 9 months, but which I'm almost done with.
Okay, good.
Thank you. It's been really good. But one of the things I've learned, especially with a lot of newer coaches that are building their practices, they have absolutely no idea what to charge. They're like anybody else. I don't know what my time is worth. They're coming from maybe a corporate space or something like that. Like, this is what my hourly rate was. And it's pretty challenging to get that impact. But again, most people and most younger people, they're also taking like recommendations from probably 2 people in their life of who to hire.
2 people that don't get it usually.
Yeah.
You already mentioned, so you think about, like, what was my time worth? How many hours if you look at it as billable hours, you're missing
challenging
the picture, right? Like, you got to look at it as the value that you're providing, not just the hour you're spending with somebody in a one-on-one setting. Because if you charge it by hour, then you don't want to do that.
You don't, because it's so much. You got to think of, so if someone hires me for 6 months, but they get a lifetime of value from that, what is the real value for that?
And they're also compensating for all the years and knowledge and learning that you've done to build. So it's
exactly.
There's the cheesy story about the plumber, electrician. The plumber goes on someone's house and turns a wrench once and charges $500, and they go, well, how can you charge me $500 for 5 minutes of your time? It's 30 years of experience that led up to knowing which wrench to use and which thing to turn or whatever it is. I clearly don't know my plumbing, but the point's there, right?
The point is there, and it's a valid point. And so I would steer people that have a real initial maybe apprehension of coaching, especially financially, right? Maybe there's a big block there. That's a very real block. And one of the things that I don't like is, and this is going back to both where you and I started, we don't need to name names, but invest all this money in yourself and it'll just work out. And then you just make more calls for it. I can't stand that.
That's a really dangerous thing in our
dangerous,
business.
man.
It's always like this coaching program or this marketing thing or whatever it is you're buying, even the car or house you're buying. It's like, oh, what's it cost? And then they want to back into the numbers of, you need to add X amount of clients or assets.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's, why don't you just make 700 phone calls to pay for that car you just bought? It's like, okay. And like, their math works. Like, in theory, it makes sense, but it's just not the real world.
Yeah.
Completely.
I think one of the immediate issues that a lot of people starting, no matter what industry they're in, face, that is not easily solvable, but easily diagnosed, is simply accountability and discipline for like daily actions. which I don't necessarily believe you need a coach for, but you do need some sort of accountability measure behind. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is they're not, because they're afraid. Like they won't want people to know their goals. They don't want people to know what they've committed to themselves for doing, because when they fail, or if they fail, they don't want to let somebody else down and let people be exposed to that. That is the idea of like growth, though. Get uncomfortable with yourself and with other people. It's so funny when I witness people actually take that advice and just start projecting out what their actual goals are in life, what their commitments are to outside sources, how much more impactful and effective they become just by doing that simple thing, just that little thing right there.
What's accountability? It's if you go on some kind of diet program where you're not allowed to eat XYZ thing, you tell all your friends that you're not doing that. Maybe it's just drinking.
Yep.
So I'm not going to drink for the month of January. You dry January.
Yep.
And you tell everyone in your life that you're not drinking. It's a lot easier than if it's just this goal in the back of your mind of like, oh, I'd really like to drink less.
Yep.
That never happens because you go to your buddy's house to watch the Bills lose and he's like, hey, do you want a beer? And you're like, yeah, I want a beer. And now you've had 10 beers.
Yep.
And there goes your dry January.
There goes your dry January.
Which is no good.
And it's also, so again, I'll just use a personal example too. My wife and I like to do date nights on Fridays. That's what we've committed to at least every other week. That's what we're striving for. And we've been striving for that for a couple of years. And we've not even close to been perfect on it, but it's something that I noticed a change in myself of scheduling those things and leaving the space for it when I would tell everybody that's what I was. And what I think is hilarious now is a lot of my friends, not only will they not invite me, but they'll, on anything that's happening on Friday, but they'll actively say, oh, wait, there's so many people in my life now that will throw out an invite and then they'll immediately respond with a double text and be like, wait, sorry, that's Friday, that's your date night. No, never mind. And it's
They
super.
finally found a way to not invite you to stuff.
But that's just a kind of a microcosm of an example of how that even something on your personal side outside of business really works. Tell people. Like if you really want to accomplish it, tell people. And I do believe in keeping like your personal drama and stuff like that to yourself. I'm a big fan of that. But if you have a goal and aspiration that you're really passionate about, you should tell people about it. And if you do fail at it, because that's what most people are concerned about. I don't want anybody to know that I failed at it. Okay, if you do fail at it, if they're a good person and a good friend, they're going to support you in that, not criticize you for it.
John, I've never failed at anything. So.
Yeah, no, you definitely haven't.
I know you haven't either. So
Yeah.
We're the only two perfect people in the world.
Yep.
So great that we get to hang out.
Yep.
So I'll shift to another question that
Okay.
I've had this conversation with other people on the podcast before, and it's just organically come about that I've had a ton of interactions with young people trying to become financial advisors, whether they're college students or whether they're 6 months into their career. You probably hate this question already, but
No, I don't, but it's a big question.
you're not talking to me, you're talking to that person. What is the advice you would give to somebody that wants to be a financial advisor and they're just getting going?
I think the firm matters less than the leadership.
Okay.
Yeah, I would interview at multiple firms and I would be more interviewing them than they are interviewing you, and I'd be interviewing their leadership. I'd be thinking, can this person, are they actually doing what they say they're doing for the community that they say they're doing for the community?
Okay.
Are they actually doing what they say they're doing for their clients? I think that's a big one. It's being a young financial advisor is really challenging. And we can go super in depth on the models and the validity and not validity of them. Like to just wake up and start an independent firm from like ground zero out of college is almost impossible.
Doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
Unless your dad's an advisor.
And that's the one thing. If you're able to get partnered, and that's what I would say, if you're able to find a firm that is partnering young advisors with older advisors in any capacity, doesn't have to be an official partnership by any stretch of the imagination, but that has that type of model, I think that's the best model to go on instead of the industry has an incredibly high turnover rate. So I get why financial firms are doing a really heavy job at recruiting at all times because the stats in my time haven't changed. It's still 90% of young financial advisors don't make it the first year. And that's a challenging statement to make, right?
Sure.
Well, why? But
it's a lot of whys.
There's a lot of whys there. But I think that's one of the biggest pieces of advice would be, does whatever firm you're considering, are they aligning you with a senior advisor to get you going? And that, again, doesn't have to be like an official apprenticeship. Like you'd find more in an independent practice, right? Most independent practices are hiring apprentices, right? Or junior advisors to work directly underneath them and go more that model. And that's a great model. It's not the only model that works though. Right. I think that's one of the biggest and most important pieces. And that's for clients too. I would have some massive hesitations if I'm trying to give my life savings to somebody that's been doing this for 4 days. Right. But
We all started somewhere.
We all start somewhere, and most firms are encouraging what's called joint work in the industry. And that's the biggest part.
Yeah, I think joint work is a big part of it. And even I like the way you phrase like picking the mentor over the firm.
Yeah.
And the concern I get a lot of times from these younger advisors reaching out is they started a XYZ company, we won't name names.
Yeah.
And they're 6 months in and they Googled some stuff about the firm and they found all the problems with that firm.
Yeah.
It's so legitimate.
And it's the internet. So you're going to find
there's some stuff on the internet for sure.
Yeah.
It's legitimate, but then they become distracted by that to the point where
Yes.
they're not doing the things they need to do to be successful.
Yep.
And maybe they fail to see that they don't have a great alternative going from like XYZ company to the firm across the street that's also hiring the 22-year-old.
Yeah.
Probably has the same issues.
Probably the same issue.
So like maybe the best advice is put your head down for 5 years, build a legitimate business, and then make a move if you still want to.
Yeah. And that's getting, unless you come into the business underneath, like you're employed by a senior advisor, right? That's the move, is put your head down. You obviously have to have a good moral compass. And if you don't, get out of this industry. Put your head down and do the thing. Because at the end of the day, nobody likes to talk about it because everyone hates it. But if you can't prospect for new clients, if you're coming in on the model that we're talking about, you don't have a business.
Right.
So you can be the smartest person in the room, which I encourage. Obviously, I'm a huge proponent of getting designations as quickly as you can. But if you can't prospect, you don't have a business.
Right.
You're not helping anybody.
Well, there's a difference between being a really good practitioner, maybe you're a great financial planner, you know your stuff, but there's also, if you want to be in this business owner role, you somehow need to bring in clients. So you're either hiring somebody to do that or you're doing it yourself. If you're 22 and have no money, you probably can't hire somebody to do that for you. So like all of a sudden, you need a prospect. Otherwise, they can do all the greatest financial planning for your zero clients. And that's probably not going to be very lucrative.
Yeah, it won't be lucrative in that model. And I think that's the point. It doesn't mean that you don't have a place in financial planning. It just might mean that you don't have a place in that model. And that's fine. I think we need to get away from, if you can't do it this way, you're not for this industry.
No. The culture, which is
definitely the
super
culture.
screwed up. It's like, so and so failed out because they're not here anymore.
Oh, I hate
like,
that.
No, they just don't want to be a financial salesman anymore. Come to their job. That's fine.
I literally hate that word, failed out. It's like like when you change jobs in any other industry, did you fail out of that job or did you just find a new job?
Yeah, I don't know. I will say, like 22-year-old me was definitely motivated because I didn't want to be the guy that failed out.
Hell yeah.
So it got me to where I am now in a way, but also it's.
Think about that. And this goes back to the coaching a little bit. Like, think about the extra baggage that costs. I met a prior advisor probably 3 years ago for coffee in Buffalo. And he's a real estate agent now, and he's very successful at being a real estate agent. And his rhetoric around the financial service industry was, I failed out of that. And I'm thinking, you're killing it in real estate, and yet you still have this mentality that you failed?
Yeah, how about you wanted to do something different?
How about you found what you were actually good at?
Yeah. I might have failed out of my first firm. Who knows?
Yeah.
Was that I don't care about gossip, but would people have said that I failed out and I chose to leave that firm to go independent?
Oh, probably.
Probably.
Yeah. Dude, you are.
It's all right. I'm used to that.
I hate that rhetoric. I hate the rhetoric around failed out in the financial services industry. It's a virus, in my opinion. Like it destroys people's mindsets. I know so many massively successful people that had their time in financial services and left and are killing it. And one of the reasons that they'll say today that they're killing it and what they're doing is because of some of the skills that they learned from a very young age of, like, hey, instead of having a boss that's over top of me, literally telling me what to do every single day, having these deadlines and expectations, there's much of financial planning in the model that we're talking about is really self-run. If you can build those skills and then you add some structure around it on the back end, maybe in that career or another career, you have a very much higher probability of success. I can't believe how many people I know that started in financial planning and are just murdering it in their respective fields now. And they would have said probably when they got out that they failed out of financial planning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you failed out, and then somehow now you have a crazy awesome tech job and you're a national sales leader. That's pretty good.
Seems okay. Yeah.
Seems all right.
Seems all right. Yeah. No experience is bad experience, and maybe.
Yeah. I just wish that rhetoric. I'm glad you brought that up. I just wish that rhetoric would change. Wish we would stop thinking about it that way. I think in true leadership, like if we're always trying, like I get the business aspect of it. Like firms want people to stay with them. Like Or call what it is.
They don't act like they do, though.
No.
Do they want that?
Yeah, because the behind the scenes, there's a lot of recruiting numbers that they have to report into.
Seems like they basically push people out at a certain point. That's a whole other conversation, but
Probably to an extent.
like we're gonna give you half the comp you get anywhere else.
So
but
push
we want
people
you to stay
out.
with
Yeah,
us.
push people out, I think, is the correct way to put it. And this goes into what I'm talking about. I think lead people out is a better way to put it. Like, hey, this might not be your fit. We're going to help you. That's the job. And a leader should be, if your leadership is only dependent on the company that you work for and the results that you get for that company, you're not a leader, you're a manager. You are.
Yeah.
It's dependent on that company. That's not leadership. Leadership should be like, I want to impact Alex's life no matter where it goes. If it's within this company, perfect. If it's not, I'm still a leader. Like, I can lead you out of this business and into something else. And I think that's the job of good mentors and good leaders, is to be that person for people.
Sure.
Not just the sales manager, you missed your calls. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, it's funny they call them a leadership team. I feel like
Team.
most companies have gotten away from the word management. They'll say leadership team. Like they use the right
buzzword.
words, but I don't know if it's there's buzzwords. We talk about that too. You sure it's a buzzword too?
Yeah,
but
it is.
we can't talk forever.
No. I think that's a really great though. And you I think, and this goes to our initial conversation, just be authentic.
Sure.
If you're a sales manager, that's fine.
All right. Be authentic.
That was
good. Good conversation.
Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Alexander Neri. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Alexander Neri or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. Alexander Neri and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.